Cooking a whole fish can be intimidating, especially when you see them laying on the ice in the seafood section. I personally have never cooked a whole fish before, but I've always been curious to try it, and I was very surprised at how easy, delicious, and cheap it was. In today's video, I'm gonna show you how to make a whole branzino. We're gonna first butterfly it, and then we're gonna sear it, followed by making an amazing pan sauce for it. So follow along and let's get to cooking. Okay, so we're cooking a whole branzino, which I've never done before. I wanna butcher it butterfly style, so this is gonna be the first time I've ever done this, so here we go. We're first gonna grab some kitchen shears or some regular scissors and snip off all the fins. This is my first time doing it, so I'm trying not to overcomplicate it. Just cut and snip those fins off and you're good to go. Also, I wanna mention that the branzino I got here only cost $14.55, which I thought was a pretty good price, and I bought it at Whole Foods, so I'd imagine this is actually more expensive than usual, but it's not that expensive to begin with. Now from here, we're going to attempt to butterfly our fish. Now you can probably ask your butcher to do it for you, but I wanted to give it a shot because I'm curious. First thing we need to do when butterflying the fish is we gotta remove its spine. Now in order to do that, I'm gonna first take a look inside the fish and see where the spine is. Then I'm gonna take my knife and cut just to the left of that spine and cut down the whole fish. This took me a while because there's a few bones you need to cut into, but once you cut those bones, it's all just flesh and it's kind of easy, smooth sailing. You wanna make sure your cuts are as close to the spine as possible so that way you're saving the most amount of meat. Once you make your cut all the way down to the tail of the fish, we're now gonna do the same thing on the other side of the fish. And you can see here what I meant by having to break those bones. It honestly wasn't that tricky. It just felt a little strange to me because it was my first time ever doing it. But now it's time to remove the spine. I'm gonna grab our kitchen shears and then I'm gonna go to the tail of our fish and cut in between the joints. It might take a couple attempts, but once you cut in between the joints, you're then gonna cut underneath the spine and cut out all the bones as close to the bottom of the fish as possible. About halfway there, I'm then gonna cut the joint at the base of the head, and then we'll continue cutting the spine out fully until it's out. Now for my first time ever, I do feel like this is actually a pretty decent attempt. There is a little bit of meat on that spine, but you know, honestly, pretty proud of it. Now I am gonna remove the head as well, which to do that was actually a lot easier than I thought. You're just gonna cut it off with your shears, and then in the process, I realized I forgot to cut one other fin, so I'm gonna cut that sucker off as well. From here, we're gonna do a little bit more cutting work and remove the bones near the collar. And I want to remind you guys again that you don't have to butcher the fish yourself if you don't want to. Just ask the fishmonger at the grocery store to do it for you and they'll be more than happy to do it. Now to remove these bones, I'm gonna get my knife just underneath them and begin cutting away as close to the bone as possible. I'm gonna keep cutting down the bones until I could pull them off and pull most of the bones out. Now I am gonna remove a bit of the collar because there's a fin that I just don't have to worry about the bones there, and there's this yellowish brown kind of dye to the flesh. I don't know what that sucker is, it's just giving me bad vibes, so I'm just gonna cut it out along with the little section of the collar that has the fin, usually. Now the last thing I'm gonna do is get some tweezers and then feel for the bones that are still there and pull them out. This is incredibly simple and easy. Just pull out whatever bones you feel. It's not complicated at all. Now, once you've done the same thing on the other side, you have a butterflied fish. It's got plenty of surface area to crisp up, and there's still a decent amount of meat on there. I didn't jack it up too much for my first time butterflying a fish. Now from here, we're gonna grab a small sheet pan, lay our butterflied fish on top of it, and then sprinkle some salt. This is called a dry brine, which I think is the most convenient way to properly salt your meats at home. You're gonna hit both the flesh and the skin side with some kosher salt, and then you're gonna leave it alone on the counter for 20 minutes. While our fish brines, we're now gonna get to work on prepping the ingredients for our pan sauce. Now let's first get to work on our lemon. We're gonna first zest the whole lemon all the way around, and then we're gonna give the zest itself a little bit of a mincing, just a couple times. From there, I'm gonna cut the lemon in half and squeeze only half of it, or about 25 grams worth of lemon juice. Next, we're gonna grab 1 shallot, and to prep it, we're gonna cut just the tip and then split it in half, peeling off the outside layer. Now I'm gonna give this a fine mince, so I'm gonna first cut vertically along the whole shallot, and then I'm just gonna mince it from there down the shallot as well. I'm also gonna run my knife through the mince a couple more times just to get any of those big pieces. This is by no means perfectly minced shallots, but for home use, it's good enough. I'm next gonna grab some Italian parsley, grabbing about a handful and then running my knife through it a few times. You can roughly chop it, or you could finely mince it. I'm personally going somewhere a little bit in between, maybe a little closer to mincing. I'm also gonna grab 14 grams or 2 tablespoons worth of capers and 1.5 cups or 320 grams worth of a dry white wine. I'm using Pinot Grigio, and please use the cheapest stuff possible. Do not use expensive wine here. I grabbed the cheapest thing they had, and it's gonna taste just as good. And if you're worried about alcohol, don't worry, it's gonna cook off, or you could just use non-alcoholic white wine. And lastly, we're gonna cut 2 tablespoons of unsalted butter, and make sure to leave it in the fridge. We want it to be cold when we use it later. Now our prep work for our pan sauce is done, and our fish has been dry brining for about 20 minutes. If you take a look at it, there's a lot of moisture now that has come up to the surface. With a paper towel, I'm gonna brush off all that excess moisture and salt on both the flesh side and the skin side. I'm also gonna preheat a pan to medium-high heat, and we're gonna get started on cooking this sucker. Now I'm gonna throw down about 2 tablespoons worth of olive oil, and once we get to medium-high heat, I'm gonna then gently lay down our butterfly branzino skin side down. I'm gonna put a couple weights on it, which is optional, and I'm gonna leave it alone for 2.5 minutes so it can properly sear the skin. About 2.5 minutes later, I'm gonna give it a flip, and as you can see, a nice little crust has started to form. I'm now gonna sear the flesh side for only about 30 seconds. 30 seconds later, I'm gonna pull it off the pan and then carefully place it to the side so it could cool on a cooling rack. Now it's time to get to work on our pan sauce. I accidentally left my pan on high heat, so it just burnt while I was doing my voiceover, but in the pan, we're gonna throw in 2 more tablespoons of olive oil. From there, we're gonna toss in our capers so they could fry up for about 30 seconds. After that, we're gonna toss in our shallots to saute them for another 30 seconds. From there, we're gonna throw in our lemon zest as well as our lemon juice and our 1.5 cups of white wine. Set your pan to high heat and begin to reduce it until you get to your desired thickness. I personally reduce it to a point where if you swipe down the sauce, it won't close itself in very quickly. It's kind of slow. Once you get to your desired consistency, I'm gonna cut the heat and toss in our 2 tablespoons of butter, mixing it in thoroughly until it's fully emulsified into our sauce, and then I'll toss in 1 tablespoon of our Italian parsley, giving it one final mixing to bring it all together. Now our pan sauce is done, and if you haven't already, that would be a great time to please hit the like and subscribe button if you're enjoying this video. We're almost at 500 subscribers, so any help you guys can provide, I would greatly appreciate it. Now to plate this branzino, all we're gonna do is lay it skin side up on a pan and then drizzle some of our pan sauce all over it. Now I'll admit this isn't my best plating work ever, but I think it still looks good. What matters most is the taste. Oh my God, that's insanely good. Holy cow. I ain't gonna lie, this is phenomenal. This is an easy 10 out of 10. I would highly recommend you guys give this a shot. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please hit the like and subscribe button. If you enjoyed this video, I'm linking a video right here that I think you'll like as well. Thank you so much for your time and have a wonderful rest of your day. Deuces.